Hello fight fans, thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, UFC champion Alex Pereira sends a warning to top contender Magomed Ankalaev. Next, MMA Twitter theorizes Conor McGregor's health status after Instagram post goes viral. Moving on, Arman Tsarukyan rear naked choked an alligator during recent South Florida fishing trip, plans to turn it into boots. Next, Dustin Poirier reveals numerous injuries suffered at UFC 302 versus Islam Makhachev. Lastly, Strickland responds to Luke Rockhold's callout. UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira has issued a warning to top divisional contender Magomed Ankalaev. Right now, Alex Pereira is on top of the world. The former middleweight king now runs the show at 205 pounds, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, some would argue that he's only just starting to find his prime in mixed martial arts, which is a scary prospect. One man who has been touted as a future challenger for him is Magomed Ankalaev. Of course, it feels like Jiri Prochazka may be the next natural challenger, but Ankalaev is right behind him. In a recent interview, Pereira addressed concerns about how Magomed's ground game could impact him. Here's what he said. "I'm not the guy to call names. I'm not the guy to pick the fight. I'll fight whoever the UFC want me to fight, but the name that's on the table right now is Jiri Prochazka. We're still in negotiations. I would like to fight around August, but nothing concrete yet." Everybody talks about Ankalaev, talks about his ground, but they don't know my ground. It's not even to show my ground game. I just go with the flow. But I'd like to show some time. Who would you favor to win that fight? UFC superstar Conor McGregor might have provided a potential answer to why the UFC 303 Dublin press conference was canceled on Monday. McGregor is scheduled to face Michael Chandler in the UFC 303 main event on June 29th in Las Vegas. He returns to the octagon after a 2-year hiatus due to a leg injury suffered against Dustin at UFC 264. McGregor underwent surgery and months of rehabilitation after suffering the injury. Immediately after UFC 264, some pondered whether or not the former two-division champion would ever return to fighting. McGregor appeared to put those questions to rest when his return was announced at the UFC 300 post-fight press conference. But concerns re-emerged after Monday's press conference in Dublin was canceled at the last minute for undisclosed reasons. UFC fighters, pundits, and media have speculated for days as to why the press conference was canceled. Some wondered if McGregor suffered an injury that could have potentially put his UFC 303 at risk. McGregor might have addressed that question somewhat in a recent social media post. But he appears in a positive mood, signaling good news for those hopeful the fight will move forward. Here's how MMA Twitter reacted to McGregor's post. He's just with us now. He's definitely at a shoulder-knee center. My doc has all those same things in the background. Bro definitely got a pay bump. Getting his hip looked at? Conor McGregor all smiles on Instagram. I don't know what to think anymore. McGregor has played everybody a treat. He isn't hurt whatsoever. Not even close. Mind games and making people talk. Bloke's a selling genius. Roll on 303. Conor McGregor got the pay bump he wanted. If McGregor had suffered some sort of injury in his recent fight preparation, it could have been a minor incident. The mystery surrounding the lead-up to UFC 303 continues, although it appears McGregor is in good spirits as he aims to make his potential fighting comeback. UFC lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan tested his grappling skills on an alligator during a recent fishing trip to the Everglades. Arman sat cage-side as UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev defeated Dustin in the UFC 302 main event on Saturday. After Makhachev's submission victory, a rematch between Arman and Makhachev is the likely next lightweight title fight booking. As Tsarukyan, who has won 4 fights in a row, prepares for his likely next fight, he's training hard in the gym and enjoying Florida life out of it. Arman, an avid outdoorsman stemming from his time growing up in Armenia, experienced the Everglades during a May fishing trip. Arman will need to have a wrestling-heavy training camp in preparation for Makhachev. As an alligator approached his boat last month in the Everglades, Arman used it as an opportunity to test his submission grappling. During a recent appearance on the MMA Hour, Arman gave a chilling account of his May fishing trip. Here is what he said. "I choked him out, caught him, pulled him out from the river, choked him, and put it on my back. I got a license to kill the alligator. We put a fishing hook out on the river, and me and my friend had to pull him in with one rod. He was 50, 70 pounds, caught him without meat or anything. Other animals, it's sad, but alligators, it's okay. They eat people, rear naked choke from back mount. Tsarukyan was then asked what he planned to do with the alligator after the incident. Boots, I'm going to wear them to my title fight. Alligator boots. Dustin Poirier reveals numerous injuries suffered at UFC 302 versus Islam Makhachev. Dustin will be on the mend for quite some time following his latest bid for the undisputed lightweight title at UFC 302. Dustin went toe-to-toe with lightweight champ Islam Makhachev for over 4 rounds before being submitted by a Darce choke in round 5 of the UFC 302 pay-per-view event at Prudential Center in Newark. As the fight wore on, damage accumulated on Dustin. His nose became progressively bloody, and he mentioned he hurt his leg during a grappling sequence. Wednesday, Dustin revealed numerous injuries in a social media post after receiving a full health assessment. Here's what he said: "Nose is broken bad, rib is broken, and my ACL is partially torn. Fight life." The average recovery time for a broken nose and rib is around 6 weeks. Poirier is looking at a longer average recovery time of 3 months for the partially torn ACL, depending on whether or not he opts for surgery. Considering the nature of MMA training, Dustin could be on the shelf for longer to make a full recovery. Poirier, 35, strongly suggested retirement could be a possibility during his post-fight interviews. The former interim champion has traded wins and losses over his past 6 fights and will now have multiple injuries to deal with before returning to the training room to continue his career if he chooses to keep fighting. It didn't take long for Luke Rockhold to get a response from Strickland. Rockhold recently criticized Strickland's fighting style and performance at Saturday's UFC 302. Not only that, but he went a step further and said he'd like to get in the octagon and fight Strickland. Strickland took to X to fire back. It looks like he's interested in fighting Rockhold and would do it at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas rather than the UFC. Here is what he said. "Couple things, I sparred you 1 round up and you snuck away like a This was witnessed. Also, we were scheduled to fight. I said, hell yeah, that's an easy paycheck. And you pulled out a few weeks out. Extreme, I'll fuck for fun." Luke Rockhold, a former UFC middleweight champion, is currently not with the UFC. He fought out his contract in 2022 after a fight of the night loss to Paulo Costa. Rockhold fought the following year with BKFC and suffered a TKO loss to Mike Perry. After some period of inactivity, Rockhold returned this past April to pick up a KO win over Joe Schilling at Karate Combat 45. Strickland, also a former middleweight champion, is coming off the split decision over Costa, which put him back in the win column. He was outpointed by Dricus du Plessis earlier this year, losing his UFC middleweight title. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.